Candidates for degrees, families and friends, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 101st commencement of the University of Connecticut School of Law. And to all the moms out there, happy Mother's Day. My name is Paul Chill. I'm a longtime professor here, former associate dean, and proud member of the UConn Law Class of 1985. That was one of the last years, I might add, when the law school basketball team, on which I played, might have given a game to the varsity. It is my privilege to serve as Chief Marshal today as we gather to celebrate the accomplishments of our graduating students and to mark this exciting and impressive milestone in their lives and careers. As Chief Marshal, I am responsible for ensuring that we have an enjoyable, memorable, and last but not least, orderly ceremony. Toward that end, I have several housekeeping announcements and requests. First, as you probably already know, live captions of the ceremony and the fully electronic commencement program are available online via the QR codes posted around the tent. Second, per order of the State Fire Marshal, please remain at your seat and clear of the aisles throughout the ceremony. We will have professionals taking photographs and videos of all the graduates as they process across the stage and again at the side of the tent where a formal portrait will be taken. Bottom line, please resist any temptation to leave your seat to take a photo. Third, we have a designated smoking area to the rear of the tent, and we ask that you use that area if needed. Finally, if you haven't already done so, please silence any electronic device capable of loudly exposing its owner's neglect in the midst of the ceremony. Your consideration will be much appreciated. Will the class of 2024 vocalist, Shay Heights, please come to the podium? Will the audience please rise and join in singing the national anthem?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Will the audience please be seated? We are graced by the presence of many distinguished guests this morning. I would like to introduce and welcome those seated with me on the platform. In the back row from your left are Mr. P.J. Cimini, class of 1995, President of the University of Connecticut Law School Alumni Association. Mr. Thomas D. Ritter, class of 1977, a member of the University of Connecticut Board of Trustees. Ms. Marilda Gundara, class of 1978, a member of the University of Connecticut Board of Trustees. Mr. Joshua Crow, class of 2024, a student member of the University of Connecticut Board of Trustees, and Mr. Robert L. Birmingham, professor of law and mace bearer. In the front row, from your left, Ms. Jessica Rubin, Associate Dean for Experiential Education, Clinical Professor of Law, and Law Marshal. Dr. Gladys Kersaint, Vice Provost of the University of Connecticut. Ms. Ebony S. Nelson, Dean of the University of Connecticut School of Law. Mr. Stephen B. Bright, Harvey L. Karp, Visiting Lecturer in Law at Yale Law School, and Ms. Bethany Berger, Wallace Stevens Professor of Law. I invite Dean Nelson to the podium for opening remarks.
Thank you, Dean Chill. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I think we could do a little better than that. It's Commencement Day. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you. Members of the Board of Trustees, Vice Provost Kersaint, Attorney Bright, members of the judiciary, family members and friends, both here and watching online. On behalf of our students, staff, faculty, and alumni, it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you to the 101st commencement of the University of Connecticut School of Law. And yes, that deserves an applause. And to all the mothers and mother figures joining us in body and spirit, I wish you a happy Mother's Day. I extend a heartfelt congratulations to the class of 2024 and a special welcome to a graduate of our Executive LLM in U.S. Law program in South Korea who made quite a journey to be with us today. This is a momentous occasion as we celebrate the completion of your law degree program, and I'm so happy to be with you on our beautiful campus on this special day. It is a day of celebration, not only for you, but also for your parents, siblings, family members, spouses, partners, and friends. Please join me in thanking and applauding them for the support and encouragement they have provided to you along your journey. We are also greatly appreciative of our dedicated staff and faculty who have educated, guided, assisted, and encouraged you throughout your law school career. They have all invested in you and in your success and in the success of this wonderful law school. Please join me in thanking our incredible faculty and staff. I stand here in awe of each of you as I think about the fortitude you have demonstrated and all that you've accomplished during your law school career. To paraphrase a line from writer Langston Hughes' poem, Mother to Son, life for you ain't been no crystal stair. You have encountered many obstacles while on your journey to achieve your degree. Perhaps it was self-doubt, as little seemed to click during the first semester, or perhaps even the last semester of law school. Or maybe it was a hearing or a case that didn't go your client's way. For some, it may have been the culture shock of studying law in a new country, in a new language, or both. Despite these obstacles, you overcame them all and accomplished great things along the way. Since entering UConn Law, your class has helped countless members of our community, both inside and outside our institution. You have helped transform the lives of asylum seekers and criminal defendants. You have advocated for the protection of children, veterans, and tenants facing eviction, while helping clients establish nonprofit and other business entities. You have helped to educate your peers and advance knowledge by serving as teaching and research assistants. You have honed your advocacy and dispute resolution skills while raising the school's profile by your outstanding performance on competition teams. You have published groundbreaking scholarship and organized conferences and symposia exploring important and timely topics such as climate activism, federal Indian law, and cannabis regulation. Now, to my knowledge, attendees' thinking and minds were only figuratively elevated during that cannabis conference and not actually elevated. You have arranged and participated in a multitude of public service projects to assist some of the most marginalized members of our society, such as formerly incarcerated individuals seeking pardons and expungements to expand their opportunities for a better life. You have spent hundreds of hours volunteering with community organizations, mentoring local and high school students, and inspiring them to believe that one day they too can attend and graduate from a magnificent law school such as UConn Law. You have raised tens of thousands of dollars to support student organizations and public interest fellowships, and you have managed to do all of this and so much more while working full or part-time, taking care of children and loved ones, and supporting each other every step of the way. These accomplishments and acts of service demonstrate your commitment to being part of a profession that at its core is about serving others in the pursuit of justice. And with the challenges facing our country and our world today, the legal profession needs you now more than ever. With the knowledge and skills you've acquired at UConn Law, you are well prepared to solve the most difficult and complex problems of our time. You will be the voice for those whose voices have been silenced, ignored, or discounted. You will advise and lead businesses that strengthen our connections as global citizens. As you work to preserve the rule of law and to protect human and civil rights, both within and outside our borders, I remind you that the law can be both a helpmate and a hindrance in those endeavors. It can be both a tool to advance justice and a tool to thwart it. So please use this invaluable tool wisely. As graduates of UConn Law, you are not only advocates for justice, but you're also guardians of justice, so please guard it well. The expectations that we have for you are quite high, and you may be sitting there wondering, am I really ready? Can I really do this? The answer to both of those questions is a resounding yes. You are ready, you are prepared, and you will succeed. This is what you have been trained to do, and in so many ways, this is what you've already been doing during your time in law school. So be confident in the knowledge and abilities you have developed during your law school career, and carry that confidence with you into the courtrooms as advocates and judges, into the worlds of business and government as counselors and policymakers, and to the front lines of the endless and endlessly rewarding battle for a more just and equitable world. As a global pandemic, tragedies, wars, loss, and unrest have impacted us all over the past 4 years, you, the remarkable class of 2024, have exemplified the values of compassion, empathy, civility, and understanding as you supported and comforted your peers and colleagues. Your leadership and advocacy have helped to bring and hold our community together. You have made one another better, and you have made this law school better. And for that, I thank you. I thank you for choosing UConn Law to pursue your legal studies. It has been an honor to have each of you as part of our law school community, and I cannot thank you enough for all the ways that you have enriched it. Congratulations, class of 2024. We look forward to seeing the great contributions you will make in the years ahead. Congratulations. It is now my honor and privilege to introduce our featured speaker, Attorney Stephen B. Bright, Harvey L. Karp, visiting lecturer in law at Yale Law School, and former director of the Southern Center for Human Rights. Attorney Bright received his BA and JD from the University of Kentucky. He is the co-author with his former student and UConn Law's own Professor Emeritus James Kwok of the 2023 book titled The Fear of Too Much Justice: Race, Poverty, and the Persistence of Inequality in the Criminal Courts. Attorney Bright's commitment to justice and the rule of law is matched only by his accomplishments. He has tried capital cases in Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi, and argued cases before state and federal appellate courts. He has won reversals from the United States Supreme Court in 4 capital cases, an impressive record that is chronicled in a new book, Demand the Impossible: One Lawyer's Pursuit of Equal Justice for All, by law professor Robert Sy. Throughout his work as a legal services attorney in Appalachia, a public defender in Washington, D.C., and a leading human rights advocate, Attorney Bright has devoted himself to helping those whose freedom and lives are threatened by the flaws in our society and justice system. He sees the humanity in his clients and others and encourages us to do the same. It is truly an honor to have him with us today. Please join me in welcoming Attorney Stephen Bright. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean Nelson. I am so grateful to Dean Nelson, to the faculty here, and others for the invitation to be here today, and honored and grateful to be able to congratulate you on what you have accomplished and make a few remarks about the challenges and opportunities that are ahead. I want to congratulate those who are graduating, as well as your parents, your partners, your siblings, your families, your teachers, your friends, everybody who has touched your life in the journey that brought you here to today. Congratulations on this special day. You graduates know that you didn't get here by yourself. You depended on your families and your friends, and going forward, you're going to depend on families and friends and assistants and people you will encounter in the legal profession and many others going forward. My advice is appreciate them, respect them, treat them well, and never miss the opportunity to let them know how much you depend upon them as you go forward in your careers. I know you've had a great legal education here because I know many of your professors. As Dean Nelson said, James Kwok is not only a friend, is a former student of mine, and for 10 years was on the faculty here. As Dean Nelson said, he and I put out a book this last year, and I will tell you, just between us, that book would not have been published if it hadn't been for James Kwok. So I'm very grateful. And Bethany, who's sitting right over here, was in my class at Yale, and I won't talk about everybody else that I know here. But I want to just say this quickly. Being at this state's flagship law school today reminds me of my own graduation 50 years ago at the flagship law school in my home state, the University of Kentucky. Back at that time, a half century ago, the University of Kentucky had a fairly good basketball team. It won several NCAA championships, but I understand that the place for championship basketball today is the University of Connecticut. Am I right about that? The men won it all, and the women were in the Final Four for the 23rd time. How remarkable. And a week ago today, one of the greatest UConn players, and one of the greatest players, period, Maya Moore Irons, received an honorary degree and spoke at the commencement of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences of this university. As you know, she led UConn to 2 back-to-back undefeated seasons as well as championships, then went on to lead her WNBA team to 4 championships, and also picked up a couple of gold medals at the Olympics. She shocked everyone when at the very peak of her career, she stepped away from her basketball to deal with the legal system and get a man out of prison. She worked for the release of Jonathan Irons, who had been convicted at age 16 of burglary and assault by an all-white jury in Missouri and sentenced to 65 years in an adult prison. She had met him before her first year at UConn as a result of becoming aware of his case through her family's involvement in a prison ministry. Her efforts helped show that he was in fact innocent, and that his and as a result, his convictions were set aside, and he was released in 2020 after 23 and a half years in prison for a crime he did not do. Later that year, they got married. Now they have a son. They've written a book called Love and Justice. And they have a campaign, a social action campaign called Win with Justice, aimed at educating people about the power of prosecutors. Little did you know, you might meet the great love of your life at a maximum security prison. Unfortunately, the case of Jonathan Irons is not an isolated case. Nicholas Davidoff describes the case of another innocent 16-year-old who was convicted and sentenced to an adult prison here in Connecticut, just down the road in New Haven. He wrote a book called The Other Side of Prospect. It's a marvelous book about how innocent people get convicted, but also about the persistence of a dedicated lawyer to get that person out of prison, and also the responsibility that prosecutors took to get an innocent man out of prison. And a lot of that, and a key part of that happened right here at this law school at a meeting where the prosecutors talked about wrongful convictions and how people were wrongfully convicted and looked into this case. As James and I say in our book, the fact that the legal system is failing to get it right on the most basic question between guilt or innocence is a matter for a great deal of concern. But we also point out that there's a question, too, of proportion, a question of excessive punishment for those who are, in fact, guilty. This last Tuesday, a dear friend of mine, Tony Amadeo, passed away. 40 years ago, we were trying to keep the state of Georgia from executing him. When the state and federal courts turned us down, despite the fact that we could show that the prosecutor had told the jury commissioners to underrepresent black people in the jury pools, we threw what was just a Hail Mary pass at the Supreme Court of the United States. And lo and behold, they took the case. I didn't really know at that time in my career whether we were ready to argue a case at the Supreme Court, but we went there and we argued the facts and we won the case. And we were successful in avoiding the death penalty on remand. Tony spent 38 years in prison. He was a model prisoner. He was an accomplished carpenter and cabinet maker. He took classes and graduated from honors with Mercer University, and he provided hospice care to fellow prisoners. After his release in 2015, he became the operations manager for a ranch in Texas, and he worked there until he passed away this last week. When he was 18 years old, the state of Georgia, the legal machinery of the state of Georgia, decided that he was so beyond redemption, he should be eliminated from the human community. I saw him graduate summa cum laude from Mercer University. I went to the ranch and visited with him and saw how he was handling things there. And I'll never forget a speech he gave not long after he got out in Washington, D.C., where he remarked upon the irony of just 2 months before sitting on a metal bench in a prison and now being in Washington, the nation's capital, on a program with Senator Cory Booker and other distinguished people as he talked about how his life had changed. He had a lot to give. We spent a lot of money, the state spent a lot of money keeping him locked up a lot longer than needed to be the case. And one of the great privileges, you already know this from your clinics and your field placements and other things, that one of the great privileges of being a lawyer is to be able to give a helping hand to people like Jonathan Irons, to Tony Amadeo, to lift people up in ways large and small. People win their cases when they have lawyers, and sometimes people can't even get into court without lawyers. Even if you have a world-class basketball star on your side, you still need that lawyer. That lawyer that learned what you learned in your your criminal procedure class, that case of Brady versus Maryland says you can't suppress exculpatory evidence. That's what a lawyer stood in front of a judge in Missouri and got a man out of prison who shouldn't have been there. But you know, too, from the work that you've done in the clinics and elsewhere, that many people with desperate needs have no lawyer, have no access to a lawyer. People facing evictions from their homes, people facing trials, people in prison unlawfully, like the people that I've talked about, parents threatened with the loss of their children, people thrown into debtors' prisons because they can't pay their fines, and people subject to unconscionable conditions in jails and prisons in this country. The list is a long, long list. And the one challenge that the legal profession faces, one great challenge, the profession that you'll join, is whether those people will have their day in court. Will a lawyer from a legal services program, from a public defender office, from an immigrant rights program, or will an individual lawyer, will one of you stepping forward to offer services pro bono to see that these folks for whom the legal system is like being dropped in a foreign land with a foreign language and foreign customs, that somebody will provide the guiding light, the guiding hand of counsel through their case? Of course, there's much that can be said in praise of our legal system, but I'm not going to spend any time doing that. This is no time for complacency. This is no time to pat ourselves on the back. This is a time when we've got to say, who's hurting out there? Who's hurting and needs us? Who's crying and needs help? What children? What parents losing their children? What people out on the streets? What mentally ill people? What intellectually limited people who are desperate? Lawyers have a monopoly on providing people with the access to the legal system. And of course, it provides the opportunity to ration legal services, to set a very high price for them, and to sell them only to the people that can afford to pay. But of course, the purpose of our legal system is to serve the public interest by providing a civilized way to resolve disputes. The Supreme Court has said in several cases there can be no equal justice when the kind of justice a person gets depends upon the amount of money they have. Of course, that's aspirational. We all know good and well that the kind of justice that a person gets depends very much upon the amount of money they have. Unfortunately, a common strategy in many cases today is to keep people from even having lawyers, or to take advantage if they have very bad lawyers. A man named Glenn Ford was convicted and spent 30 years on death row in Louisiana, and then he was exonerated. Turned out he was completely innocent. The prosecutor who prosecuted his case wrote a letter to the local paper in which he apologized for taking advantage of the fact that Ford was represented by two lawyers who had, in a death penalty case, who had never tried a case before. An oil and gas lawyer and a slip and fall lawyer, whatever that is. I hope that you will decide today or sometime soon not to take advantage of people because they don't have lawyers, and not to take advantage of people because they have incompetent lawyers. The responsibility of the legal profession is not to let the pursuit of wealth obliterate the pursuit of justice. All of you, regardless of how you will spend your life in the law, at a law firm, at a business, in a prosecutor's office, and other government service, all the many, many ways in which lawyers contribute to society, are responsible for ensuring access to the legal system so it works for everybody. You've got to see that there's sufficient funding for public defender programs, for legal services, for all the other kind of public interest programs out there. And you've got to step forward and help people out who won't have it otherwise. I hope at your time at the bar, the next 50 years you have it as a lawyer, that you'll make that above the Supreme Court building equal justice under law. Get us closer to the reality of equal justice under law. As we look at the challenges of the legal profession during the time that you're in it, we also have to recognize that the kind of justice a person has depends upon race. Jonathan Irons and Glenn Ford were both black men. They were both tried by all-white juries. Today, we continue to see all-white juries in communities that have substantial black or Hispanic populations. We see racial prejudice in the actions of some law enforcement officers, in some charging decisions by prosecutors, in some bail and sentencing decisions by judges. If you have some free time, and you might have some after you take the bar and before you start to work, I encourage you to go to Montgomery, Alabama, and visit the National Memorial for Peace and Justice. It's a memorial to 4,400 men, women, and children, most of them African American, who were lynched between 1877 and 1950. And also the Legacy Museum, which traces the history of slavery to convict leasing to Jim Crow, when the law required discrimination, to mass incarceration, what we have today. They're long overdue. We now have in the United States, we have in Montgomery what you have in Germany and what you have in Germany with regard to the memorials and museums regarding the Holocaust, and in South Africa regarding apartheid. The memorial and museum have had quite an impact on people who've been there. After the opening, a couple of years ago, the Montgomery Advertiser newspaper ran a front-page apology for its coverage of lynchings, saying it took responsibility for a false narrative regarding the treatment of African Americans during those dark times. Jeffrey Rosen, the district attorney in Santa Clara, California, announced after visiting that he would not seek the death penalty anymore as district attorney. And just last month, he announced that he was going to try to vacate the death penalties of the 14 people from Santa Clara that are under death sentence in California. This summer on Juneteenth, that's June the 19th, Brian Stevenson and his colleagues there will dedicate a sculpture park that takes an unflinching look at slavery. Every judge, every legislator, every lawyer, really everyone, should visit the memorial, the museum, the sculpture park, because they show how law has been misused in our history. We must confront the truth. We must acknowledge its impact on the present, and we must seek reconciliation and justice as we strive towards a more perfect union. I also want to quote Langston Hughes, a great poet of the Harlem Renaissance, who sort of summed up the challenge we face today. He said, "There's a dream about the land with its back against the wall. By muddled names and strange, sometimes the dream is called. There are those who claim this dream for theirs alone, a sin for which we know they surely must atone. Because unless shared in common, like the sunlight and the air, the dream will die for lack of substance anywhere. The dream knows no frontier or tongue, the dream no class or race. This dream cannot be kept secure in any one locked place. This dream today in battle with its back against the wall, to save the dream for one, it must be saved for all." Thank you, good luck, and Godspeed.
Thank you so much, Attorney Bright, for sharing your wisdom with us this morning and for your tireless and deeply impactful work to fulfill this nation's promise of equal justice under law. We are grateful for and inspired by your words and your deeds. Thank you so much.
We will now begin the awarding of degrees, beginning with the Master of Laws degree. As a reminder, members of the audience are requested to remain in their seats so that candidates are able to move freely in the aisles. Professional photos and videos are being taken of all of our graduates. We ask that you please hold your applause until all of the candidates for the Master of Laws degree have received their diplomas from Dean Nelson and Vice Provost Crescent. Please note that there are a couple more steps in this ancient ceremony after this, and I promise to let you know before the final one so that you can pace your clapping if you so choose. Will Associate Dean Jessica Rubin come forward to the other podium, and will the Hooding Marshals, Professors Jessica DePerio Whitman and Minor Myers, please come stand to her left? Will Dean Nelson and Vice Provost Crescent please stand to my left? Will the candidates for the degree of Master of Laws please come forward as directed by the floor marshals?
Maureen Nasiku Kosin from Kenya. Pearl Bafor Ado. Claudius Carriage. Colleen Olson. Goang Soo Lee. Alexis Morales Frezi. Saba Salebegi. Sarah Abdullah from Bahrain. Amira Katharina Balmart from Germany. Alexandra Sklia from Ukraine. Ilona Didin from Brazil. Priscilla Frez. Emmanuel Mawood from South Sudan. Enrique Lopez Ramirez. Paula Bush. Hannah Lauer. Donlapurn Baso from Thailand. Biana Bennett Visa from Germany. Guliko Macharashvili from Georgia. Fatu Ibrahim Dabu from the Gambia. Isoma Osakwi from Nigeria. Sandhya Altman from Germany. Alex Victoria Claire Gardner from the United Kingdom. Leanne Meredith T. Gumtang from the Philippines. Xinyao Li from China. Shenxing Liang. Alessa Angelica Marlin Munch from Germany. Nike Neuhauser from Germany. Francile Soares. Lucas Sprongkamp from Germany. Trisha Gay Ustani. Chelsea Connery. Braun Tamulis. Shay Alexis Heights. Aaron Robert Cahill. Jennifer Banos Bali. Henry Barrice. Jenna Baydeer. Portia Marie Bowdish. Eric Benoit. Nicholas Barabee. Radhika Shreyas Baguth. Kashvi Bhatt. Shreya Baturu. Amy Elizabeth Bissonette. Ashley Lynn Blair. Valerie Bonifield. Keith Joseph Brown, Jr. Gretchen Yelmini. Alalea Unikayude. Alexandra Abakurli. Nolan Allen. Kobe Amos. Ernest Andrioli. Alex Byrne. Robert Burdicap. Spencer Buckley. Ruth Marston Burke. Sean Michael Carey. Andrea Penny Catania. Matthew Chaco. Nathaniel Shimura. Jonathan Tyler Clark. Max Clayton. Jack Joseph Cole. Jacob Noel Comment. Casey Marie Corvino. Christina Cruz. Alejandro Cuenca. Jacqueline Yvonne Seifert Cushing. Brianna Lee Sear. David Del Preti. Marissa Dennison. Erin Dennehy. Catherine DePino. Megan Marie Diamond, being hooded by her father, Bruce Diamond, of the class of 1985. Sophia Julia Dabini. David Lucas Dickerson. Gina Marie DeVito. John Patrick Dudley. Henry Duong. Chloe Dysart. Corey D. Evans. Jillian Fernandez. Jill Flanagan. Zachary Flashman. Matthew Forcino. Taylor Victoria Friel, being hooded by her stepfather, William Bartol, of the class of 1991. Sarah Frostbutter. Lorraine Fumex. Nicole Gagnon. Benjamin Ryan Godley. Mark Goldner. Brooke Gravanti. Stephanie Greer. Claire Elizabeth Hebert. Andrew Joseph Higgins. Eleanor Mariana Hirschman. Brittany Monique Faith Jones. Olivia Shay Jones. Kevin Matthew Jordan. Ali Kaba. Trent Robichaux Kazin. Lauren Elizabeth Kidd. Kendall Eileen Grace Kirk. Benjamin Klein. Lauren Clo Butcher. Michael Kozlov. Kiana Laude. Peter Maxwell Leff. Luann Wei-Ann Liang. Liana Henderson Semmel Lialdi. Yaoya Liao. Hannah Livesey. Kevin Lizon. Joyce Lopes. Anthony Edward Lozier. Philip Nicholas Manero. Stephanie McCardle. Kevin McCauley. Caroline McCormick. Robert Michael McCormick. Ryan McGrenery. Megan Celeste Medlicott. Ariana Danielle Munson. Margaret Mirolo. Devin Meyer. Matthew Nancy. Brian Ryn Nelson. Sophia Ruth Nelson. Alessandra Nicolay. Madeline Payne. Nicole H. Palmieri. Christine Shrima Pereira. Lily Maria Pickett. Alan Quaid. Alexandra Elizabeth Quintal. Cheyenne Marguerite Rogers. Michael Vincent Nanfito. Daniel Franklin Ross. Pearl Rourke. Stephanie Roverosa. Bryce Russo. Matthew Saladino. Rachel Sandor. Madison May Shetler. Ian Sheldon. Ulta Shkembi. Being hooded by her sister-in-law, Hannah F. Kalishman, of the class of 2020. Autumn Ziegel. Florence Tiffany Brooke Simon. Taylor Dean Skirvin, being hooded by his wife, Annie Skirvin, of the class of 2018. Weston Stevens. Corey L. Thomas. Sukriti Thomas. Christian Tippins. Caitlin Zimeratis. Isangubang Uda. Jocelyn Tracy Viliavatil. Renee Varga. Julia Vassallo. Taylor Ann Vibert. Torsten Voigt. Alana Voronova. From Ukraine. Caitlin Walsh. Jillian Warren. Alyssa Wesner. Michael Justin Whitelaw. Charles David Wilbur, being hooded by his mother, Marjorie M. Wilbur of the class of 1987. Janelle Nicole Williams. Jillian Samantha Wilson. Tatiana Rose Yevon. Joshua Connor Crow.
It is a pleasure to announce that the following Juris Doctor candidates have participated in a dual degree program: Megan Diamond, Joyce Lopes, and Michael Whitelaw. Will the candidates for the degree of Master of Laws and the degree of Juris Doctor please rise? Dean Nelson and Law Marshal Rubin will now present the candidates. And just so you know, even though we skipped a step, we're still one step away from the big moment.
Dean Nelson, I have the honor to present to you these candidates for the rank of Master of Laws who have successfully completed the curriculum of the School of Law.
To you who have made significant progress in learning and giving promise of further achievement, I declare that you are entitled to the ancient rank of Master with all the appropriate rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto.
Dean Nelson, I have the honor to present to you these candidates for the degree of Juris Doctor who have successfully completed the curriculum of the School of Law.
To you who have made significant progress in the study of law and give promise of achievement in the profession of law, I declare that you shall be entitled, in accordance with the procedures of the university, to the degree of Juris Doctor, with all the appropriate rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto.
I invite Vice Provost Kersaint to the podium to confer the degrees. This is the big one, folks.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the trustees of the University of Connecticut and in accordance with the procedures and regulations of the university, I confer upon you the degree of Masters of Law or Juris Doctors for which you have been presented at this commencement of the School of Law. To those who have today been presented for degrees, I extend the congratulations of the faculty, trustees, and officers of the administration. I ask you to discharge the responsibilities of your new status and to enlarge upon the foundation of knowledge which you have been acquired. Congratulations. Graduates, please be seated.
It is now my honor to present the Perry Zirkle 76 Distinguished Teaching Award. Thanks to Dr. Zirkle's generosity, this is the 9th year we have given an endowed award for a transformational teacher of law. You, our graduating students, voted to identify the teacher who enables you to master complex ideas, inspires and makes the classroom come alive, engages with all students and is prepared and organized, and is a nationally recognized scholar or leader in law reform. Voting from a slate of 5 outstanding teachers, you selected Bethany Berger, Wallace Stevens Professor of Law, as this year's recipient of the Perry Zirkle 76 Distinguished Teaching Award. Congratulations, Professor Berger.
Guliko Macharashvili of the class of 2024 will deliver remarks on behalf of the Master of Laws graduates.
Dear faculty members, dear professors, colleagues, friends, families, and well-wishers. It is with great honor and privilege that I'm standing before you today, representing the UConn Law LLM students, a diverse group of bright people from so many beautiful countries, while I come from the beautiful country of Georgia. My journey at UConn Law was strongly influenced by Dean Nelson's words, which he outlined during our very first week of orientation. In her opening remarks, Dean Nelson emphasized that we all belong here. And if you believe, she continued, that someone has everything figured out better than you, let me assure you, they do not. Interpreting her message, I understood that we are all navigating through this unknown ocean of emotions and fears, and it is perfectly normal to feel adrift, yet it's important to remind ourselves that we are welcomed and accepted. It struck me that every individual, irrespective of nationality, social standing, or profession, experiences periods of uncertainty. Yet, realizing these shared human experiences can serve as a support for those who silently facing the personal struggles. The recognition of people's values and making them welcome should be our daily conduct as lawyers, as it reflects the fundamental values of equality, social justice, and human rights. It touched me in many ways and on several levels. I was raised in a loving and caring family where both my parents are deaf and who regularly required sign language interpreters ever since I was little. While growing up and while having sign language as a first language, I observed the world through their eyes, witnessing the different paths they had to take to gain access to public services, including legal assistance and health care. While helping them access the services, I was learning those legal procedures myself. And in the process of interpreting, I have met so many people from so many fields and diverse sectors, spanning from public services to private entities. They patiently explained legal terms and procedures as I interpreted them to my family. I recall encounters with doctors who viewed persons with disabilities as unequal and as lacking of worth. But I also remember those who took extra care and consideration in explaining terms and making us feel safe and valued. I did not remember if those people were professionals or not, but I will always remember how they made us feel. Every professional can easily be replaced, but the ones who love what they do and do it with respect to other people are remembered and admired. The world needs change makers, not only equipped with knowledge and professionalism, but also with strong sense of humanity. I believe that one of our responsibilities as lawyers is to ensure that people are heard, recognized, and respected. Back then, I would have never imagined myself standing here as a Fulbright scholar, delivering a speech on behalf of LLM students, yet here I am, grateful for this experience, and I'm thankful to all the people in my life who helped me in shaping my journey. First of all, my family, who went extra mile to provide me with an education, and most importantly, who gave me love, care, and unconditional support every day. My main hero in my life, my sister, who taught me and showed me the importance of maintaining humanity in every circumstances, is here today, accompanied by her husband, family, and my two intelligent, lovely nieces, Zoya, Liliana, hi. And I cannot express enough gratitude for having a sister who is an example of kindness, strength, hard work, and compassion. Following her lead has been a source of inspiration for me, and I cannot imagine the challenges she faced as a first-generation doctor immigrating from Georgia and graduating from Yale Medical School. I could not have asked for a better assistant than you. And here, I would like to give recognition to all the individuals in the life of each student present here, which have served as a pillars of support during moments of struggle. And I would like to congratulate us and our families on graduation and becoming the members of the UConn Law family, class 2024. We have been through a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of cups of coffee, which somehow always helped us to find the final glimmer of motivation. Let's extend our gratitude to our professors who were always here to support and guide us through the ocean of endless cases. Let's use our degrees as tools to ensure that people are heard, valued, and recognized throughout the world. My sincere and special recognition to our diverse LLM class from Bahrain, Brazil, Canada, China, Gambia, Georgia, the country, Germany, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Philippines, South Sudan, Thailand, Ukraine, United Kingdom, and the United States of America. I think we made it. Thank you so much.
Gretchen Yelmini of the class of 2024 will deliver remarks on behalf of the Juris Doctor graduates in the evening division.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Professor Cho. So, in honor of Mother's Day, I decided to start this speech by quoting my own mom. After all, no one has looked forward to this moment longer. Quote, "If you don't want to go to law school after college, you better figure out what the heck you're doing with your life." If you don't know my mom, that is the family-friendly version of the email. But today, I'm here to say, sorry, Mom. Despite being a law school graduate, I don't know that I figured out what I'm doing with my life. In fact, I don't think that there's any moment where any of us truly figure it out. We simply adjust and adapt. Much like cold calls, life is nothing but a series of answers that start with, "It depends." So I'd argue that life and law are not meant to be figured out. They're meant to be experienced wholly and unapologetically. I'm not the first to make that observation. Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote that the life of the law is not logic, but experience. Evening students know that better than most. We didn't immediately go to law school after undergrad. Instead, we were teachers and members of the military. Some moonlit as stand-up comedians and tortured poets, while others worked in government and the insurance industry. Regardless of where life took us before law school, at some point, everyone came to realize that life is long and law was meant to be a part of it. So here we are, 4 years later and graduates of UConn Law. But before we head off into the next phases of our careers, I'm going to take one last opportunity to do what I do best, hype up my class. And this time, I have a captive audience. The evening class of 2024 is small, but mighty. We span generations and wear several different hats. We all started this journey virtually, quickly building community with one another and our professors, while aware that we were people first and law students second. Throughout it all, we kept our sense of humor. We'd be the first ones to crack jokes and make one another smile. We even surprised our professors our first year by showing up to class with cat filters on our WebEx screens to stress that no matter what life threw at us, we were prepared to go forward. And boy, did we go forward. Over the past 4 years, we've remained resilient advocates and close friends. We've celebrated engagements, birthdays, and newborns. We contributed substantially to Parkville Market's bottom line, and in the face of stiff competition, we've determined that Sean Carey holds the Callie Award for axe throwing. We've also rallied to support one another during times of crisis without a second thought. My class worked to further integrate evening students into the law school community. Together, we founded an organization devoted to our division's unique needs. We led clubs and journals. We served as mentors to the classes that follow, always considering our many commitments a benefit and never a barrier to achieving our goals. So, we will remember not only as the last of the pandemic classes, but the first evening class whose members include the editor-in-chief of the Connecticut Law Review, the president of the Corporate and Securities Law Society, and the lead organizer of several Earth Day conferences. We're also the class that founded OWLS, hosted Family Day, and worked toward divisional cohesion. Collectively and individually, we've left our mark here, actively and repeatedly demonstrating that evening students should be considered an invaluable part of UConn Law, both inside and outside the classroom, all while paving the way for the night students that follow. But we didn't do it alone. A benefit of attending law school after dark is that we spend a year learning from Professors LaHave, Anderson, McDougald, and Berger, each of whom has been a champion of our class and the division itself. We've learned so much from you. For example, we may never look at a peppercorn or a grasshopper quite the same way. And that's even the case, although now we know that we have enough legal knowledge to understand teams like offensive, non-mutual, collateral estoppel. And Professor Berger, not only were you the teacher of the year, but now there are elaborate plans to adversely possess my attic. I don't know that those things are related, but maybe that's what brought you over the top. In all seriousness, thank you for everything. Your mentorship and support mean that more than I could ever say, especially in 4 minutes. We are also grateful to the members of the faculty that taught us after business hours or took the time to serve as mentors despite our unconventional schedules. On behalf of my class, I also want to extend our sincerest thanks to our friends and families. You've served as co-pilots and confidants over 4 years of Professor, I think you're on mute, tolerated inside jokes about caramelized onions and low menaces without complaint. And without you, none of us would be here today. So we appreciate everything you've done for us. Finally, thank you to my classmates. It's been a true honor and privilege to learn and laugh alongside you. I couldn't imagine better colleagues and friends. If the last 4 years taught me anything, it's that while we may not have it all figured out yet, we'll accomplish a lot along the way. So, congratulations, 2024. Let's continue to experience all that life and law have to offer as we embrace whatever comes next. That way.
Alaleya Anikuyide of the class of 2024 will deliver remarks on behalf of the Juris Doctor graduates in the Day Division.
Say cheese. All right. To our mothers, I say, Happy Mother's Day. To my family, who are now realizing that I was chosen to speak here today, I say, surprise. Thank you for your love and support. And to the class of 2024, I say, congratulations. Thank you. While preparing to address you today, I ran into an issue. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I knew where to find answers. Remember the fall of 2021. We are anxious, and we're in night 215 for Professor Beatty's writing sessions. There, we learned about Iraq as she walked us through a Tor typo. I'm not mispronouncing Iraq. Issue, rule, application, conclusion. It's the structure for legal analysis. It allows us to answer questions by applying precedent or pre-existing rules. So I went looking for rules from some of our favorite professors and staff members. Now, this is the edited version. The administration has restricted the time, place, and manner of this speech. So I'll be circulating a supplemental brief later on. Rules. Issue 1, whether X professor is optimistic about the future of the legal field, and if so, why? Rule 1, the professors and staff are cautiously optimistic. We think bigger than previous generations, Daily Doran, partially because we stand on their shoulders, Fischel. These habits will affect how we conduct ourselves in practice, Simon Kerr. Issue 2, one piece of advice you'd give students as we begin our legal careers. Here we go. Remember, the law powers fights for progress. Listen to the voices of those organizing, protesting, and striking, Fischel, Bauer. Be careful around work hard, play hard culture. Alcohol tolerance goes down after age 30. Zubricki. The best way to resist brain degeneration, activities that expand your horizons. Simon Kerr. All right, application. My friends, I agree with our professors. I've seen a fierce commitment to each other and our communities. This culture is the sum total of every kindness we showed to one another. We need to bring this with us as we enter practice. What does this culture look like? It's sharing notes with a sick classmate. It's the study room reservation for you and your friends. It's empathizing with those who weep. After a tough on-call, after a basketball club overtime loss against Yale, after law school is dwarfed by life's struggles. It's cheering those who rejoice. After a job offer, after a 6th national championship, after a night to remember at the half door, RIP. It's the pizza behind star. It's ignoring the grading curve that means your neighbor thrives at your expense, and instead, embracing a commitment to mutual aid. If you could all do me a favor, please don't let our good work end here. The legal profession can be so old-fashioned because few know what goes on in the very high walls of the city we live in. I mean, we've heard it before, right? The law school stages of death. In the first year, they what? Scare you to death. In the second year, they what? Work you to death. And in the third year, they what? Bore you to death. I would always ask, why does anyone have to die? I mean, you'd think reading textbooks would result in minimal casualties. You mean to tell me that we're paying to be in the worst book club ever? At least there are snacks. Just look out for the many emails. But we've helped each other rise above. We carry this culture into the legal world. Make justice accessible. Make the profession a better place. Make change where you can. We've always had this power, but now we know the rule against perpetuities. I'm just joking, no one does. Conversely, you'll encounter some in your offices and communities who oppose this mission. Mentors have spoken to me about their hard-fought progress being reversed. Therefore, we must stay vigilant. That's not a threat, it's a history lesson. My friends, as we weave this quilt of progress together, we must ensure it's not torn down. To quote contemporary poet Kendrick Lamar, I know. Sit down, be humble. Hope is a discipline that must be practiced daily. Class of 2024, for the foregoing reasons, I am optimistic about our future. The culture we've made gives me hope, and I pray our good work doesn't end here as we go forth to do justice, show kindness, and walk humbly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, graduates, for those wonderful remarks. It is now my pleasure to introduce P.J. Cimini, a member of the class of 1995 and the president of the University of Connecticut Law School Alumni Association. Attorney Cimini is a founder and principal of the government relations firm Capital Strategies Group here in Hartford. He has been an effective and energetic supporter of the law school through the Alumni Association and has generously taught our students as an adjunct professor. It is with much gratitude for his service and leadership that I welcome him to provide remarks today. Attorney Cimini.
Thank you, Dean Nelson, and thank you for your stewardship of this great institution. So the best part of being the last speaker is you all want to hear me speak and finish quickly, which I will. Graduates, on behalf of the Alumni Association, congratulations and welcome to the club. Today you join a very special group of 12,325 talented individuals who have graduated in the last 100 years from this institution. Give yourself a hand, yeah. Some of you may remember back in the 1980s, there was an advertising slogan called "Membership has its privileges." And as graduates of this law school, you now hold membership in this organization that does come with a few special privileges. First and foremost, you have the privilege of knowledge, a top-flight education from training from some of the best educators in the world. Secondly, you have now the privilege of opportunity, the opportunity to pursue your passions, create a career, and forge your own path. And perhaps most importantly, you now have the privilege of community, a supportive network of UConn Law alumni, mentors, colleagues, who are always going to be there if you need us, and we want to be there to help you during your challenges and triumphs or during your legal careers. And remember that with all great privileges come a lot of responsibilities. So please take a few minutes today and thank your family, your friends, your spouse, and your other friends and people who have helped you get here. And we especially ask that you don't forget this institution. Please stay connected to the law school. We'll be in touch. Don't worry. And we really hope you stay connected in your journey out there. And again, congratulations. I would ask, there is a great tradition here. We'll on behalf of the Alumni Association, we'd like to toast you at the beginning of this transition into this great new journey. So please join us over in front of Chase Hall after for a celebratory toast. Again, congratulations, and may your journey be filled with success, fulfillment, and an occasional laugh along the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney Cimini, for your leadership of the Alumni Association and for your support of our graduates in the law school. We greatly appreciate it. Graduates, it is evident that you care very deeply about your beloved law school, and I hope that continues now that you have transitioned from being students to being alumni. Please stay involved and help support the other students as they pursue their law degrees, just as others have helped you pursue yours. As I said during orientation, you belonged at UConn Law, and now UConn Law belongs to you forever. You all are an important part of this law school's wonderful legacy, and all of us are incredibly proud of you and wish you much success and happiness throughout your careers. Congratulations again.
The ceremony will conclude with the recessional of the platform party, the faculty, administrators, and law school graduates. Will members of the audience please remain in their seats until all graduates have recessed and the musicians have finished playing? And as Attorney Cimini has mentioned, will the graduates please join members of the University of Connecticut Law School Alumni Association for a toast in front of Chase Hall. Thank you for joining us in this celebration. Please join me in thanking Deb King, our Events and Program Manager, who organized this beautiful and complex commencement, and to all the staff who assisted her, particularly members of the facilities and communications staff. On behalf of the staff, faculty, trustees, and administration of the University of Connecticut and the School of Law, we offer all our graduating students our warmest congratulations. May the learning you have engaged in here and the degree you were awarded today be springboards to a lifetime of success, service, and fulfillment in the law or in whatever calling your path leads you to. And we wish you and all of your families and friends gathered here today to celebrate your achievement a wonderful afternoon.